Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, as well as our co-hosts Murdoch Capital Partners and TAA Advisory, we're very pleased you have joined us for today's uranium and vanadium company presentations. Our next live presentation comes from Energy Fuels. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you are interested in scheduling a meeting with Energy Fuels, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You will be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Mark Chalmers, President and CEO of Energy Fuels, which trades on the New York Stock Exchange American Exchange under the symbol UUUU and on the TSX under the symbol EFR. Welcome, Mark.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for that introduction. For those that are listening, watching this presentation, I love giving this presentation because I believe this is a remarkable story that is developing very quickly, and there really is no investment like Energy Fuels. Typically, you'd invest in a uranium-only company, a rare earths company, vanadium company, potential isotopes, and with Energy Fuels, you get a unique investment and all things critical materials for this energy transition. So it's quite remarkable. I'm looking forward to telling the story. So this first slide shows the White Mesa Mill, which is our flagship asset that can recover uranium, rare earths, and I'll talk about each of these in more detail. It's the only conventional vanadium facility for conventional ores in the United States and actually North America. We're also advancing medical isotopes and a long history of recycling. I may be making some forward-looking statements in this presentation, and so here is our technical disclosure and forward-looking statement. Really, our mission is just simple. It's to produce responsibly critical materials needed for the energy transition. And when I look at what our company does, it is the energy transition on steroids. So when you look at the periodic table, and this is fascinating for me, over the last, hundreds of years, people have been focused on certain elements. And today we're seeing this change dramatically, and the focus on things like graphite, lithium, cobalt, and the rare earth elements. So our company is advancing the ability and currently recovering a number of these critical elements that are highlighted on the periodic table with a long history of uranium and vanadium, but the addition of the rare earth elements and radium-226 in the not too distant future. And these technologies are dependent on these elements. Without these elements, you just do not get the best outcomes, whether it be nuclear energy, which is used for baseload carbon-free energy, the vanadium flow batteries, permanent magnets and electric vehicles, and wind generation and other high-tech appliances. You need these elements. And when I went to university a long time ago, I won't say how many years ago, they weren't even on the radar screen in a lot of cases. I mean, certainly uranium, vanadium, but certainly not these new elements, used for the transition on improving electrification. So all our products are high-value product line. We have a long history of uranium production. I've produced uranium all over the world, and now it's reemerging as nuclear energy for carbon-free energy. You see reactor restarts in Japan. You see South Korea taking statements and steps to go back into advancing their nuclear. You look at it in Europe. You look at the United States. You look at they're prolonging a lot of reactors that were scheduled to shut down. And then at the same time, you see this advancement in small modular reactors. The rare earths is fairly new for us. We've been advancing rare earths for around 3 years. And this is a very exciting spot for us. And it really isn't recognized, I don't think, by a lot of our investors at this point in time, but it is a true growth area for our company. Vanadium is also a critical element. We have a long history producing vanadium, and a lot of our assets were the best of Union Carbide. Union Carbide was one of the largest global producers of vanadium for decades, and we have some of their key assets that they preserved to the very end of Union Carbide. Medical isotopes, when we're processing uranium and rare earths and monazite in particular, we solubilize a lot of things, including isotopes that are finding new emerging cancer therapies like radium-226 and radium-228. And we have a long history of recycling, which basically allowed the White Mesa Mill to stay alive during periods of low prices. We have substantial financial strength. Matter of fact, I think we can tout one of the strongest balance sheets in all of the Americas when you look at uranium, vanadium, and rare earths. With at the end of September, we had over $122 million of working capital, and we're getting close to closing the Alta Mesa project that we announced that we were going to sell in Texas, likely tomorrow, to close that. And that really fortifies our balance sheet to fund all our plans non-dilutionally. So every element that we recover or currently recovering or will be recovering fits perfectly into ESG. And so, as I said, I think our company is on steroids when it comes to reducing carbon emissions and electrification, and also fitting into this new ESG world that we all live in. We also set up a foundation in San Juan County, Utah, one of the poorest counties in Utah and in the whole country. And we're very proud of that. And we also issued a very powerful sustainability report, which shows all the great things that we can do that basically nobody else can do because of our strategy. Uranium has been our core business. And as I said, I've produced uranium all over the world. I've been doing the uranium business now for 47 years this year, and that's a long time, but I loved it from the first day I started working in the uranium business, and I still love it. So our uranium production portfolio is bigger than anyone else in the United States. We have the White Mesa Mill that's currently producing. We have the Pinyon Plain Mine, which I developed in the late 80s, that is also being developed. And we've got the Nichols Ranch ISR project in Wyoming, Sheep Mountain. And as I said, we're transacting or selling the Alta Mesa project in Texas. And the main reason we're selling it is that it wasn't in sort of our main corridor of activities, and we got a good price for it. And at the same time, Encore, improves and increases their ability to produce in Texas. And so I think it's a great outcome for them as well. Also was very exciting in May, and unfortunately, somewhat on the back of the conflicts in both Kazakhstan and Russia and Ukraine, we signed up 3 long-term contracts for 8 years, which underpins our ability to restart at least 1 mine, but we're currently getting 4 mines ready for production. And we also sold uranium to the Department of Energy as part of the Strategic Uranium Reserve. And so the market is changing very quickly, very dynamically. The conflict in Ukraine is not going away anytime soon, and the time has come to rid ourselves of Russian uranium products that are funding a war in Ukraine. Now, as a company, we trade in the pack of those in North America in the pack, and we're right in the middle of it. And I just want to point out that you look at from our market cap, we're in the middle of the pack. From a working capital perspective, we are very strong and probably the strongest second to Cameco. We have 0 debt. We have uranium inventory, so we have a strong long-term history of producing uranium. And actually, Cameco and Energy Fuels in the United States have produced like 85% of the uranium produced in the United States over the last 15 years. So we have a proven track record. But none of those people on that list have rare earths. None of them have the ability to produce vanadium or potentially the medical isotopes or the recycling. So this is a remarkable story, and I think as this story unfolds, is really going to unlock unique value to our shareholders. Rare earths. Some people said, why in heck are you getting into rare earths, Mark? And it fits perfectly with uranium. And the fact is that the very best rare earth feeds, monazite in particular, are all elements that we can handle at the White Mesa Mill and recover the uranium. I mean, the radioactivity of rare earth feeds has been a problem for decades, and we've seen problems, and I'm not wishing any bad on MP or Linus, but it continues to be an issue for others, and it is not an issue for our company. We've taken a uranium mill and we're retrofitting the infrastructure and the permits to process rare earths, recover the uranium, and recover the rare earths, and we have all the facilities and licenses to deal with the radioactivity. This is a game changer in the world of rare earths. This slide is a very interesting slide, and it was prepared by the Department of Energy, and it shows in red how dependent we are on China. Look at this. Look at the red versus supplies in these different areas, whether it's mining, separation, refining, or magnet manufacturing from other countries. Guys, this is a big challenge to go ahead and diversify from China. And it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen without China. So we're not anti-China, but the point is somebody's got to step up to the plate, and Energy Fuels is a company that's stepping up to the plate quicker and faster than anyone else. So when you look at this race to this new age of clean energy, look at the progress that we've made in rare earths since April of 2020. We've been able to announce that we are getting into the space. We started making a secured monazite from Chemours. We were able to get into cracking and leaching. We closed, yesterday we announced we closed this Bahia project in Brazil, and I think you can expect other acquisitions from our company. We're moving forward with what we call phase one separation, and we'll have that completed by the end of this year or early next year, moving on to a second phase as we feed the first phase with monazite in, say, 2026. And we stick to our deadlines. We are making progress quicker than anybody else that I know of when it comes to how we're advancing our strategy and the focus of our strategy. So, when you look at full integration, you look at what we have done when it comes to monazite with Chemours in Brazil, and we're looking at other sources around the world. We start making a carbonate. We're doing that all right now. We're also with separation. We're moving forward with what I call the phase one, and within the next say 12 months, we'll have separation. And we're also focused in due course on the metal making alloys and potentially magnets as we advance the strategy. It doesn't happen overnight, but nobody is moving quicker than we are in this regard. So this is a slide on the project in Bahia in Brazil. We're very excited about this. This could provide monazite to White Mesa for decades. It's a large land position. It's almost 60 square miles. And this is a known heavy mineral sand deposit. And many have been watching this, and many have told us that, wow, what a great acquisition to continue to advance our strategy in a big way. Just pictures at the mill, upper left-hand corner, that is carbonate that's going to NEO in Estonia at the Silmet operation to my very good friend, Konstantin Karianopoulos, which is a truly unique partnership between our companies as we're advancing our strategy and also opening up the markets in Europe as well. So just other pictures of some of the team, some of the infrastructure, and some of our pilot facilities, lower right-hand corner, that we've been running for the last couple years. And we've got an immense amount of data and information. And what's a differentiator from our company is the fact that we can actually pilot stuff on our site at White Mesa. Why can we succeed when others have not? One, we've got the permits to deal with the radionuclides. That is a massive advantage. Monazite is a very high value feed. It's relatively easy to process if you can deal with the radionuclides. And we have a long history with solvent extraction. That the White Mesa Mill has been a solvent extraction facility for over 40 years. It's got a low strike rate for capital and operating costs. And we're also in the state of Utah, which is a great place to do business. How do we compare against our rare earth peers? We currently don't get, we believe, much, if any, re-rating on the rare earth front, but we are planning to chase the Ilukas, Alynuses, and EMPs, and we think this is where we can really make massive strides in terms of showing people that we can do all these critical elements in a cost-effective way in the United States of America when it's never been more important. So as we're advancing our integration, I think this is our biggest opportunity to re-rate our value to our shareholders. So in addition, and I mentioned already, we've got this vanadium processing plant, which was owned at one time by Union Carbide. It can make very high purity vanadium. Last year, we sold a material amount of vanadium at a premium, over $13 per pound. We still have about 1 million pounds of vanadium, and we will sell that as we see how the market firms and how we can. And the market for vanadium is firming, particularly for electrolytic vanadium that can be used in electrolytic cells, and we still have the ability to go back into vanadium production quite quickly. The medical isotopes is relatively new. It's a sleeper. This is a big area. The world is short of isotopes, and where could you get isotopes? What better place could you get isotopes than the White Mesa Mill? So watch this space. Financials, when you look at our financials, and the last reporting date was in September, and you look at what we have in terms of cash, marketable securities, investments, inventory, and then you have the addition of when we close on Bahia, we are in super strong position and non-dilutive, and we are in probably the best shape in the history of Energy Fuels, and one of the best shapes of any of our peers because of the way we manage our balance sheet and zero debt. When you look at sort of the hidden assets, when you look at our inventories in that working capital, it values the uranium on the books at $29 per pound. Current uranium prices are north of 50. Vanadium, we have at 609. Current prices are 1080. That's almost 70 to 80% increases that are not included in that working capital. And when you adjust for current prices, you can add at least another 20 million or so on top of that. And at the same time, you look at the closing of the Alta Mesa transaction, you can see why I'm so excited about the strength of our balance sheet. So our outlook in 2022 was to produce uranium. We're the only ones producing uranium of any material quantities, produce 162 million pounds. We've got significant uranium inventories, as I said, at these low book prices. We're making the rare earth carbonate, and we sold the uranium to the Department of Energy for $18.5 million. That's the first time they've sold uranium or purchased uranium in like over 50 years. And we are building our contract portfolio. We're going to continue, and we expect to be able to produce NdPr oxide in 2024 at commercial scale. We're continuing to secure monazite, and we're selectively making sales of vanadium, particularly as the market improves. So that is really the Energy Fuels story. And I know there is nobody else that has a story like Energy Fuels. We're very proud of this. We're doers. We're not promoters. When you look at the fact we got nearly $1 billion of infrastructure, no debt, and that strong balance sheet, the progress that we're making, like, it is remarkable. So I'd now like to, open it up for questions. And I guess I've got questions in my question box, so I'll start from there. First question, do we anticipate additional purchases by the Department of Energy of uranium? And I don't really have a solid answer on that, but there should be, okay? The Department of Energy really created the uranium industry in the United States back in the 50s and 60s. You're looking at this dependency that we have on Russia. And when you look at the Inflation Reduction Act and some of these other bills that have been going through, we need to get this flywheel going back in the United States. So, but I think it's likely that there'll be additional purchases, and it needs to for the right reasons. Let's see, another questions. And again, I just have to kind of read these as we go. On the monazite supply, we have the agreement with Chemours. We still have regular communication with Chemours, and we're looking at how we can expand that. We closed on Bahia, and we're talking to basically everybody in the world with regard to monazite. And people know we're real. People know we can do it, and people are looking at diversifying from China. I believe we're going to have some really exciting news on the monazite front in 2023. And I think that when people and investors can see that news front or flow on the securing of monazite, I think the penny's going to drop, as they say in Australia. And I think it's going to really surprise people on the upside. We still got to get it all tied up, but it is work in progress. Another question on the cost of producing vanadium. Vanadium production, it depends on a number of factors. It's typically around $7, $8. It could be lower than that, but currently the vanadium price is about $10.80. And we think we can get a premium on our vanadium because of the purity. It's over 99.5% pure. And so we actually think that the electrolytic side of the vanadium market could demand a premium. When it comes, there's another question with regard to the capacity at White Mesa. Look at the White Mesa mill, and I've been involved with this mill since the 80s. It has never really ran at capacity. It's a very large facility. It has uranium license capacity of 8 million pounds per year. And I believe that's the largest in the entire United States of America. And so it typically has ran at around 50% at max. The max it's ever produced is around 5 million pounds per year, but it typically runs at 5 or 6 months a year when the uranium market is good, which allows us to process the rare earths and the other portion of the year when it's not being fully utilized. When we do phase 2 of our rare earth plan, we are building a completely separate facility next to the uranium circuit, completely separate in due course. And we think we have time there because, as I said, the mill, when it comes to running uranium, when the market is good, it's usually been about 50% of the time. So that's one of the reasons we're advancing phase 2, and we're doing the engineering right now, and we plan to build the phase 2 over the next few years. And here's another question. Are there any U.S. government programs provided to support or provide incentives for further development of the domestic supply of uranium, vanadium, and rare earths? Yes, there are. And we will look at those that make sense. One of the problems with some of these programs is they're so prescriptive that they can actually slow you down. And we do not want to be slowed down. Will we consider funding? Yes, we will, but it cannot slow us down. If we lose a year or two because we're in some of these government programs, that slows us down too much and we may not consider it. But we believe we're getting to a critical mass that the government is paying attention to what we're doing right now. And we believe that, there is a good chance that we will get a program that works for us and for the government. And we're very, anticipating that as the government sees the great things that we're doing, I think that we will be rewarded, not just by the government, but by industry, seeing that there is a U.S. producer of these critical elements that has never existed before in the history of the United States on one facility as a hub for critical elements. So watch this space. And I could never tell you that I've been in this business, as I said, for coming up on 50 years. This is the most exciting story that I have ever seen, told, and I believe that it's going to unfold. I think 2023 is going to be a big year. So I think that is my last question, but I see one just popped up. I don't see any. The current production at the White Mesa Mill, we just finished this run where we did like 100,000 pounds, which is just a fraction of the capacity of the mill. But it was produced from what we call alternate feeds, which are other sources of uranium that we can process and recover the uranium at the mill. So right now we are producing rare earths. So we've switched from uranium in the last quarter of 2022. We're cracking and leaching monazite from Chemours right now. And so, as I said, we're flip-flopping as we go. But meanwhile, we're building out the separation for phase one in the existing SX building, where we can recover the uranium, the vanadium, and we'll be able to recover the light rare earths and the SM plus component of the feeds. So nowhere in the world do I know where there's a single building that can recover all those elements in one SX building. Any other questions? Go ahead and type them in if you'd like. And if you want to meet with me further, I'm available to meet with you. So it's a story that takes some getting your head around. And I think the true opportunity here was when people realized that we can do uranium and the rare earths as this sort of, as I said, incredible strike rate for capital operating costs and with our capacity with our balance sheet. Okay, I've got a few more thoughts on M&A activity this year. Look, we're always looking for anything that creates value to our shareholders. Could there be M&A? Yes, there could. I mean, you just look at the fact that we closed on this project in Brazil. There are a number of people talking to us in a number of capacities. So we will do whatever creates value. But I can tell you, we are not trying to be a little rare earth producer or a little uranium producer. We are looking at world significant in the rare earths, and we continue to plan to be the largest producer of uranium in the United States of America. We are not thinking small, we are thinking big. And we're focused on big, and we're focused on building a very material company significantly larger than we currently are. There's a question, is there a plant in Arkansas? I don't believe so. I'm not sure. It may be related to maybe a vanadium recycling plant, but I'm not sure what that question is about. Any other questions? We've got a couple minutes left. Well, if there's no further questions, thank you for listening and watching this presentation. And thank you to our shareholders. You make this all possible in the support that you provide our company. And I look forward to further updates in due course.